Hi guys. So today we're going to be installing a hardwire kit in this 2020 SLC300. I was not able to find any guides on how to do this online. So I have a Uniden R4. It's hanging here on a windshield mount. Right now we're using the cigarette lighter for it. So the goal is going to be to move away from that and go to a hardwire kit. So I was not able to find disassembly instructions for this car online. I was able to find them for the SLK. The SLK would be up to 2015. So I'm gonna start taking some stuff apart as I talk to you about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. The goal here is to connect that hardwire kit between this radar detector right here and the cigarette lighter wires that are behind the cigarette lighter here. So I think, based on what I've seen online, the SLK had a shift boot here, a bigger shift boot with a larger shifter, and there were screws underneath here. So I think that I need to remove this trim bezel. So I'm just using a plastic pry bar here. We're gonna lift up a little bit on this so it does pop up. And just try to be careful not to break this. I did also look at, so there are 4 torque screws here. They're a T20. When you're doing stuff like this, sometimes it can be helpful to look at parts diagrams. So I did pull up a couple parts diagrams on this car for the center console. It doesn't exactly show you how stuff comes apart, but sometimes it can show you like what's on top of what. So the reason why I'm going to the cigarette lighter, I know a lot of people are going to ask, like, why don't you go to a fuse box, or why don't you use a mirror, taps, or, you know, other things like that. There are other options that you can use to power one of these things. Well, the fuse box for this car is in the trunk, and the battery is under the hood. There isn't a fuse box inside the car. So fuse box is a little bit harder than your normal vehicle. So I got these screws out. It feels like something is securing it back here. On the older cars, it just unsnapped. I'm going to try removing this piece here, this plastic. We'll see if this kind of comes up. Loud crack, but other side. Oh, okay. So that pulls out, and there are 2 screws here too. So a lot of people use mirror taps. I don't want to talk poorly about them. I mean, I guess that they work and they serve a function, and some people have had good luck with them, and that's fantastic for them. I'm really happy. For me, I've just decided that it's not worth the risk. Years ago, I used to work in a car stereo shop, and I used to install remote electronics, and I did a lot of, you know, remote car starters and GPS navigation and overhead DVDs and stuff like that. And one of the things that I learned is that you really don't want to tap into the factory wiring harness you don't want to pull more power than what the engineers kind of designed it for. So, you know, this mirror system up here, there is a module up there, I'm sure, some sort of computer module that is talking back to the rest of the car through canbus, which is, you know, computerized. And so I lifted this up, and I'm just kind of going to pull back on it, because I think this is just going to unsnap. Sweet. Okay. So there's probably a computer module up in here, and that's going to be powered through some sort of power source. There's a good chance that there will be switched power up there, but there might not be. And what I mean by switched power is power that automatically turns on when you turn on the ignition, and turns off when you turn off the ignition. So sometimes you can find that, sometimes it's a little bit harder to find. It just depends on the vehicle and how they how the manufacturer is treating it. Some cars, everything is energized and then the computer turns things on and off. Other cars, things are only energized when the ignition is on, and it is more of an old school way of doing things though. So trying to be careful here to not mess this up. I'm getting held up on this harness here. So what I was getting at with the mirror tap is, I know that they work, and I know that there are a lot of people that have had good luck with them. For me, I would feel a lot more comfortable, especially like this is my wife's car, doing a run to a place that is designed by the manufacturer to have this accessory plugged into. So, you know, a cigarette lighter is, it's designed to either light a cigarette or to plug in an accessory. Like that's its intent. And that's how the manufacturer will have wired it. That is how it will be fused. You know, all of the design intentions are going to be there for that device to successfully power my accessory, right? Where with I got that unplugged. So there's a blue plug here with a clip, and the clip is in the front, so you just squeeze this way in. And then I think there's another one right here underneath this one. That clip is on the bottom, you squeeze up on. So the manufacturer's designed the cigarette lighter to run an accessory. Like that's what it's for. So I'm a lot more comfortable wiring to that and not worrying about, you know, something getting screwed up, versus pulling off of a mirror tap. In my opinion, you run the risk of, if the radar detector or backup camera or whatever it is that you're powering, if that draws enough power to make the voltage drop on the module or whatever controls are up there, you run the risk of having the module lose communication with the rest of the car for a period of time. That could cause diagnostic issues. That could create a situation where a part of your computer system is not running or not communicating properly with the rest of the vehicle. So, you know, from my perspective, I don't necessarily want to risk that. So we're just going to be careful with this here. So I'm going for the cigarette lighter because I feel it is the safer choice. Now, here is the ashtray. So you saw how I unsnapped that. There were 2 screws here. There were 4 screws here. And 2 of them actually held this ashtray in to this. And then the other 2 held this down. And then when I picked this up, there's a harness here for the roof. There's another harness here for the control, but that actually, there's a female end on that, and it's connected to like a plastic piece here. So that one's long enough that you don't have to disconnect it. And then there's this harness that plugs in here, which I'm guessing is for the ambient lighting. There's like red lights that go up and down the side here. I'm guessing that's what that is. And then the AC control had 3 harnesses plugged into it. During all of this, like, you want to make sure that I don't even have the key on me. You don't want to turn on the ignition with all of the stuff disconnected. It's going to cause problems for you. You should probably disconnect the battery when you're doing this type of work. Like, that is, most aftermarket electronics, that's like step number 1, disconnect the battery terminals. Step number 2, do everything else. And then at the end, reconnect the terminals and get on with your life. So that's why I'm not doing a mirror tap, and I'm doing this hardwire kit. That's why I'm bringing it down here. I'd rather just be safe. So if we look here at the back of this, you can see there's a 3-wire harness. There is a red, a brown, and a gray. And we can look here and see where they actually go into. The brown here is going to the outside of the cigarette lighter, so that's going to be the ground. The red is going to the center terminal of the cigarette lighter. And then the gray comes up here, and it looks like that's powering the light. So there's like a little ambient light that lights up the cigarette lighter. So we're going to be getting our power then from this other side of the harness. And the colors change here. So it's still brown, but the power, the positive, is a black with a yellow line. In terms of tools so far, I needed a T20 Torx. I used a plastic pry bar, just this guy. It's a Sonic. You can get a kit at Harbor Freight that's cheap. It just doesn't look as nice as the Sonic ones do. Alright, so the next thing you want to do is you want to figure out where you want to mount this button. Maybe you don't want to mount it at all. Like, there is a mute right here, so you don't technically need it, right? But I usually do. I usually put it like right in here somewhere, like next to my knee, kind of. But you kind of want to figure that out because it's going to affect your cable routing. So let's assume it's going to go on that side. We're going to take this kind of phone cord end, which is what goes up into the unit end. Your radar detector will vary. Like my Redenzo has a USB-C connector. It just depends on what brand it is, what they use. So I'm just pushing that up through this hole. And you'll see it better on the other side. So we'll just pull up a bunch of wire there, and then we'll take this this positive and negative here, and just to kind of give you a better visual of what I did on the other side. So right here there's a piece of vinyl and then there's a piece of carpet. This vinyl is kind of above the carpet, so what you can do is you can pull back on the vinyl a little bit, and then there's kind of a pocket there that you can go through, and you can see there's my wire right there. Now the goal of this is to get up here, but we have to run around the car, so we have to go like up the pillar and across. We could go up the driver's side pillar as well, I suppose, but I feel it's easier to work on this side because there's no steering wheel. There's a bunch of other stuff there. So this comes with a fuse holder right here. This is a ground or negative. So what I'm going to be doing is pulling both of them off of this. Now this is technically fused, but it's got a 15 amp. This is only a 2 amp. So I'm going to use this fuse holder. And the reason why is because if there was a short near the end of that, this wire could theoretically melt because it would be able to draw as much as 15 amps. But with this 2 amp fuse holder in here, then this actually would pop the fuse if it drew more than 2 amps. And since we're going to be routing that around the door and some other things that move, it's just safer overall to do it that way. So I'm going to tap into this factory harness here. Just going to use a razor knife to cut back the fiber wrap that they put on these. I will say the build quality on Mercedes is actually really good. The cars are nice to work on. They come apart well, they go back together well. Just take your time and you'll have a good experience. There are multiple ways to do a connection like this. I personally prefer to do a tap method. So I'm using strippers like these, and you can strip a piece of the casing back in the middle of the wire without actually breaking the wire. So I just did that here with this brown wire, and then kind of open it up right in the middle, give myself a little tunnel that I can go through, stick this wire through, wrap it around. Usually when I do a video on electrical, I have people that post in the comments about soldering. I'll just say that harnesses from the factory are meant to flex, they are meant to move, they are meant to expand and contract. And when you create a rigid connection point with solder in the middle of a wire, it gives it a point where it can break. And I've seen them break. You know, like harnesses up here when we were doing remote car starters and stuff, we'd get them in occasionally. There are certain wires that you don't tap into, you instead need to actually like cut them in half and interrupt them. So like if you're doing a starter kill relay or key sense wires, just certain things like that, you end up needing to put relays in. And you open yourself up to the possibility of problems. So this is the way that I've always done it. I've had good success with this way. I worked at a place where we had to lifetime warranty our installations, and it's a way that I'm comfortable with. I'm not hosting a class on how to do electronics and electronic theory. I don't like solder in the middle of harnesses because it gives them a rigid point that could be broken. I also don't like, we call them vampire clips, but they're like those clips that have the metal tabs that you squeeze over the wire to let you tap into them. I don't like those because they tend to nick and cut the wire, where this method doesn't. It performs the same type of connection as this. It's a mid-harness tap, which is nice. But I feel like you're opening yourself up again because of the nick in the wire to a possibility of failure in the future. So I've got our red connected to the black with the yellow. I've got our black connected to brown. Like I said, those are the wires that when looking at the cigarette lighter, you could tell which was the positive and which was the negative. I'm going to wrap the harness back up as it was before I got in here. And then I'm going to take this fuse holder. We're going to tape this up and we're going to tuck it back in here. This is a good opportunity to use a zip tie as well. I'm using tape because I have tape in my hand. So there's a pocket here that we can tuck this in. So now we're going to test our fitment. So we'll plug this back in. And we'll put this back in here. Make sure it fits in nicely and we don't have any obstructions. When you're doing stuff like this, like, you know, move this door up and down, like test the hinges. See this? Like there's this piece over here with like a spring and stuff. Like all you need is for that to grab a wire. And then all of a sudden you've got this like door that won't open or won't close or whatever, like this bit of jank that you can tell. And when I did it for a living, that's what we would call a comeback, meaning the customer is going to come back when they can't open and close this, right? So once you've gotten that taken care of, we unfortunately can't test this right now because I've got all this stuff unplugged. You don't want to power this on. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to put it back. And I'm going to plug everything back in. So looking at the back of this, you can see there are 3 plugs. 1, 2, 3. You don't have to worry about labeling these connectors. Like when you're doing stuff like this in general, most cars are going to have some sort of way for people to not plug the harnesses into the wrong place. Like remember, these are assembled by humans on an assembly line. So there's going to be, even if the connectors are like the same connector body, there'll still be some identifier or something like that. Whether it's a different color or there's like, you know, this plug has a rib on one side or something along those lines. Like there is a reason or a way for a human to tell that this doesn't belong in the place that you're trying to plug it into when it's wrong. In this case with the HVAC, one connector is long, one connector is short. Pretty simple. So I'm gonna tuck this back in here, and we're gonna get this kind of where it needs to go. Clear this. And really, you gotta watch out for these metal tabs right here on the back side. Like those are what are going to screw you at some point. All you need to do is rub one of them on the vinyl dash, and you'll have a scratch there that you'll never be able to get out. So those are things to just be really, really careful of. Wrap it in a rag, you know, do something to protect yourself. I've done a lot of these. I'm being really, really careful. I'm also trying to show the best angles for the cameras, and covering stuff up in rags and stuff like that isn't very conducive to you guys seeing everything that I'm trying to do here. We always want to make sure that we plug everything back in. Now, at this point, I've got this plugged back in. This didn't get unplugged. It's always a good opportunity though. Like you should check, just because I moved that, even though I didn't unplug it. Like, did it get jostled loose? This is unplugged or plugged back in. These three are plugged back in. That's plugged back in. So I should be good to go. And this is going to go back together the reverse of how it came apart. So we're going to snap this in together like that. And then this kind of slides down into its pocket. And there is a there we go. There's a snap under here, so you just need to make sure it's firmly, but these tabs have to be forward of these tabs. So just, again, be careful when you're putting it back together. Make sure our gap is consistent, everything looks good. So now we're at a point where we can start testing a couple things, and then we can start screwing some stuff back in. So to open this, close this, make sure that looks good. We can put those screws back in, the front two, which are the ones that hold in the ashtray to this bezel. I don't know if it's possible to just not remove those and have the ashtray come out with the bezel, but it would be another harness to deal with, so I'd probably do it the way that I did it anyway. These are the shorter of the two screws. They're too long and too short of these front four. So the shorter ones go forward. They are for the ashtray. The longer ones go back here, kind of in the middle, right here where my finger is. Normally before you screw all the stuff back together, you want to test your installation. That's best practice. I'm being a little cocky. I'll probably get caught. I probably screwed something up accidentally, but who knows. Screw this in back here. That's good. Then this can get snapped back in. This just lifts straight up. Okay, and then this guy here kind of tucks in. Be careful, there's like a pin here that's for the light inside the glove box, and then it snaps down like that. And that's up. So we're going to test our radar detector really quick, make sure it works, and then we'll continue to route the cabling along the passenger side of the vehicle.
New Santa Barbara Honda creating.
Okay, radar detector turned on. So that was accessory. This is on. That's off. Radar detector turned off. So it looks like we've done it successfully. So we have two things left. Number one, we have to mount this guy over here with some double stick adhesive tape. Just They give you some Velcro in the bag, so that's what we'll use. I mentioned the vampire clips that I don't like using. This is one of those. That's what it looks like. I hate those. Don't use it. So there's some Velcro here. We'll save that. We'll use a little bit of panel wipe or some isopropyl alcohol to kind of clean this up, and then we'll stick it to it. Generally, like if you're sticking to vinyl or leather, those are probably going to contain some sort of leather conditioner or something like that. That's going to make it hard to get it to stick. So you just want to clean it really thoroughly before you do. So what we're going to do next is we're going to route this here and then up under here and then to that door and up here, right? So how we're going to do that is we're going to remove, there's a plate here. So there's 3 T20s there. You remove these when you're doing your cabin air filter. So if you've ever watched me do that before, I've shown that a time or two. So we'll just remove these 3. I invite you to share your experience. Like I said, in this car we have a Uniden R4. We have Redenzos in the Mini and the other Mini. And I kind of transfer one back and forth between the red Mini and the Honda Passport. They all have hardwire kits in them as well. So I've got this panel here unscrewed, and then you just kind of have to pull down over here. So now you'll see, here's our wire. Let's unplug it. We're gonna have to be careful of this connector the whole way to not break it, but we can bring this over here. We can go up under this kick panel all the way across. And I'm getting to the point I'm going to have to go on that side of the car. Stick another light here to hopefully give you a better view. So I'm up here across the bottom. This is an airbag here, so you need to be behind that, which is pretty easy. And then now I'm over to the other side of the car, which is right here. So let's take a look at how this goes together. So this rubber gasket right here, we can pull on that and it's going to come off of the, kind of like this. Some cars have like goop in these, so it doesn't like the Mercedes does. I want to say my other Mercedes have though, actually. So this is kind of 2 pieces. We'll just get that out of the way. This looks like it unsnaps. Let's grab a pry bar here. See if we can get this out of our way. There we go. Like that. It's going to give you a much better view there of what I'm doing. So going across the bottom, up through this gap between these panels. Now we can screw this back together, this lower panel. All right. So now we're going to come up this pillar and get to our radar detector. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed this up through here. I'm going to cross behind the airbag, and then I'm going to go down the front of this headliner all the way across and drop down to plug into here. And then I'm going to tuck everything in and keep my slack back here because that's where I want it to be. So we're going to pull this out of the way if we can. I don't know if that's going to be removable. On a non-convertible, it's a lot easier to deal with these pillars, but in this car it's pretty tight. I removed this panel to give you guys a better view of what's here. So you'll see there are no airbags in this pillar. The pillar just has a plastic cover like this. If you do want to remove this, it's not that hard. There are 2 T20 screws here, one T20 screw here. They're actually the ones that hold in the visor. And then this unsnaps from here, this corner, and then you can tuck it, pull it out from here and pull it out from there, and it lifts out of the way. So we can use that as an opportunity to run our wire. The reason that I remove that is because if you see here, there's actually like an antenna module that's sitting here, and there's antenna on the glass. This red cable right here that's kind of taped up, that came out when I was trying to run the wire behind, and that, I wasn't sure if I accidentally unplugged it from something or if it just wasn't going anywhere. It is covered in tape, which made me think it wasn't going anywhere, but I wanted to be sure. So I ended up pulling this cover off to just verify that. You do have to drop the roof to do that. You can't get this clip out otherwise. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm going to take this, I'm gonna plug it in here. I'm going to run it underneath this cover here. Which just unsnaps. There's a plastic cover here. This you can just pull down on. So we're just gonna take this, we're gonna run it along the edge of that. We're gonna snap this guy back in like that. Give ourselves a little bit of slack. And then this is going to go here, across here, and down here. So let's put this back. And I think the first thing we need to do is tuck in the bottom here. Now you can see that this is kind of proud. There we go, like that. Needs to be snapped in. We have our gaskets here and all down here. So what we want to do now, I think, is we want to work our way up this gasket. It's a little bit easier with a tool. And as we work our way up, we just kind of poke this back into where it's supposed to be. And we're going to find our spot. So I've got it kind of in place, but not snapped quite in yet. Give ourselves a little bit of room for that. And then that snaps into place. Check our gaskets, especially in this car. It's a convertible. You don't want leaks in your Mercedes. That would be absolutely ridiculous. Stupid expensive. And then we're down here already, so we can put this guy back. Like that. We have a little bit of slack. We're going to leave it in here. And then we're going to tuck this in next. And this should go like so. This guy here. So remember when we took this off, this was actually over the top of the gasket. which is abnormal for some cars, but it is how Mercedes tends to do it. Just like that. Then get this out of here. Check on this side, make sure everything is in place where it belongs. That looks good. Now what's going to hold this up are the screws. So like I mentioned, this is our visor. This snaps in here, and then this goes here. There are 3 screws. All right, so that's in. So now it's time to start testing some stuff. Turn our power on. Let's check this. That works. Let's
giveaway from Sumac Casino Resort. Count entries now for your
make sure our light works. It does. Radio works. Antenna. Radar detector works, which is what we wanted. Other buttons, lights seem to function appropriately. So now we can put our roof up. Okay. Make sure that all of our gaps feel normal all the way across, and they do. Make sure everything looks good. It does. Make sure our gaskets are in all the way. They are. So now we'll do a little bit of cleanup. I'm just going to wipe off the fingerprints that I have here on the windshield from trying to run the wires, and the fingerprints on the center console, and we're all done. Shut the doors, put the windows up, etc. But we're good to go at this point. So I thank you for watching. This is a little bit harder one. Mercedes, like I mentioned before, they're nice to work on. They come apart, they go back together, they don't rattle and creak and break, and things don't fall apart, so you don't end up with a bunch of clips that come out of your door. But they do take a little bit of extra time and effort. So if you take your time, you'll be just fine. They aren't a car to be afraid of. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.